We's going live. All right, good evening, everyone. This is Uche and Njoku, Sneaker Principal. Welcome to the second episode experience of the Ivy League Hoodrats. You know, my name is Uche and Njoku, and this is my brother right here.
Evening, everyone. Evening, everyone. So happy to have everyone back with us. Excited to be here tonight. Got a bunch of hot topics, I'm sure, that we're going to roll through there. So, stay tuned, ask questions, chime in. But definitely excited to be here for episode 2 and invite other people to come along. I know there are other Ivy League hood rats out there. Oh, you're out there. Don't make us have to go and find you now.
Listen, it don't matter if you went to Columbia like we did, Harvard, Princeton, UPenn. We have Yale.
Cornell, don't forget that.
Oh yes, Cornell. Dartmouth. There's one more.
Got to get my girl Cornell here. She Brown. Here. And all of you folks who went to some of these other PWIs, Stanford, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Washington, all that. Yeah, go ahead and call on in too. Yeah.
Yes, this evening. First of all, this is just our space, and to just talk about what's happening in the world, in education, or just the stuff that's just happening. So we have some interesting topics for this evening. If you're tuning in right now, just know that you are able to connect with us via the. Hold up! I just realized I didn't even set up the. Some people look at me like, "Yo, what's he doing?" Hold up! I gotta have the little scrolly thing, so people know where to connect into.
Come on, OG, you got it.
Yeah, I'm slipping.
That's what happened when you had.
Listen, when we have kids.
I knew the brother before he had children. The brother knew me before I had children. Children, they create a different level of stress because you have to watch little bodies walk around in the world and make decisions, and you're expecting them to make the decision that you would make. It's just not reality.
It's not. That's not happening. Listen, I've learned. Right. I learned a long time ago. Like I have no control of the little people. They listen when they want to listen. That's about it.
What you watch your heart run around and hope they don't fall off the side of the porch, and your daily goal is to not end up in the emergency room because it is a minimum of 8 hours.
How many times have you been to the emergency room with your 3?
Oh man, I don't know. I've had some speeding nights. Getting to the emergency room, it's just an interesting situation because you just don't know when they're little. They can't talk, and then once you get there, and then after 2 hours, you determine they're okay, but they're under neurological observation because they hit their head. It's going to be 8 hours. Not, no, we want to make sure that if they have to be observed, they're observed. But you're sitting there literally 8 hours. They're playing games, but hey, you got to do what you got to do in the name of love.
Listen, I once had my daughter. My son hasn't been to the emergency room yet, which surprises the mess out of me because that little dude right there, my goodness. So, but my daughter, and I'm going to tell the story. And first of all, I thought I was a child abuser based on what happened. So, my daughter used to go through this thing where you walk in, and she would just drop. Have you ever had that happen? You're holding your hand, and they just drop for no reason. Yeah. And start screaming because they want something, or a piece of pebble, or a leaf on the ground, or a stick. So we're walking, she just dropped. And as soon as she dropped, the scream that time was different. It wasn't the usual, I want something. It was like this blood-curdling like scream. Yeah. So all of a sudden, her arm is like this. And I'm like, what just happened? So of course, in my black brain, I'm thinking, oh, we gotta go to the ER, and they're gonna say this man abused his daughter. He must have broken her arm. So I get there. I'm heart palpitating. Like, what happened was, I don't even know what. The doctor came to me and said, it's called a nurse's elbow. He said it happens all the time. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, let me see your arm. And what happens is when they drop like that, often their tendons are not strong enough, so it just pops out of place.
Mhm.
So he just did his whole little routine and popped it back into place. That was a good 4 to 5 hours sitting in that ER, and I was just like, man. Yeah, guess what happened? It happened again about 2 weeks later. But I just went on YouTube and I was like, how you pop this thing back in? And I figured it out. Then with my son, it happened with my son as well. But
Yeah,
with my
exactly.
son, his sister pulled his arm. So yeah, talk about stress.
I thank goodness I hadn't had that situation. But again, um, kids, yeah, they create stress. You love them, God bless them. You spend all your money on them. If you're out there, make sure that you get 529s or some type of savings account. Do not go fill your house up with cheap plastic toys from here to there and not have your house filled with books, people. Books. There are so many black. We need to write some. We might have a black author on here now. Get books. Make sure that you're setting them up with an account so that I don't care if they want to go to college or not. I do encourage them to, but if they want to go backpacking through Europe or climb Mount Kilimanjaro or go to Machu Picchu when they turn 18, I'm not gonna let them get spend all their 529 money on Gucci bags, but they have life starter money, right? They don't need additional cheap toys. Resist that urge. Make sure that you're breaking generational curses. Take care of your kids in that way. Make sure their grandparents and aunts and uncles and all that are contributing too. So if you don't have, I'm not going to endorse any product, anything like that, or any particular one, but it's so many different ways to get 529 started. And I don't care if you're putting $1 in, $2 in. If you make a good amount of money, put put a percentage in and make sure your kids set up for success. That is my plea. That is my beg. That's coming from the readiest of readiest. That's coming from the Ivy of the Ivies. Hey, whatever you want to put it, make sure that you set your kids up for success. If they're 15, start it now. If they were just born, start it now. That's my
And it's
plea.
not a lot of money. Like listen, I got two custodial accounts, one for my daughter, one for my son. Every paycheck automatically, a fixed amount of money goes into that account, and taking advantage of compound interest, you know, and the market, like let's be honest. Even though right now the market is down, it has been historically proven on average about 12%. So imagine that over the course of 20 years. And the account I have set up is at 21. They have access to it. So whatever that money is, by the time they're 21, listen, if they want to go to college, great. If they want to buy a house, great. If they want to do, but do know they will know how they will be financially literate, so they can make a good decision about with that money. It's going to be their decision. But again, that nest egg is very, very important. So listen, bro, I'm with you on that, 100%,
Man,
100%.
I just think that our kids have enough to stress about, and I don't need anybody playing cards and trying to hustle, doing. So I did security in college, throwing people out of clubs and bars and all this kind of. Like I don't need you trying to work in the cafeteria. Ain't nothing wrong with working in the cafeteria. And put it out like that because I done did every job you can think of: cleaning toilets, digging tree. I dug tree holes one summer from scratch, no machine. I need to get in shape for football, and hey, I need the job, so I dug tree holes.
How'd you get a job digging tree holes, bro?
Man, listen.
Like you go to the college career office and they
No, no, I was working for the maintenance department and for my undergrad, and they were actually putting in trees around the football practice field, the soccer practice fields, and all that. And yeah, I, I, I don't know. I got assigned to digging tree holes one day, and I was like, wow, this was a hell of a workout, like full workout. And it's not just like digging with just digging in your flower garden. You got to dig 6 feet by whatever and this deep to make sure that shit. So yeah, I mean, got in shape. But again, I don't want my kids to have to have every job in the book. Their job needs to be focusing on whatever they're studying so they can be great students. And continue to move on. I don't want them to have to, be thinking about, oh, I don't know. By the time they're in school, books might be a thing of the past. Even though I enjoy books and flipping pages, but I don't want them, to have to think through all of that. Like, no, you have financial resources to be able to support. your studies. And I encourage other folks to do so. Just it's one less pack of cigarettes a month. One less cigar, one less bottle of liquor. Like let's just be honest. One like stop buying all the cheap plastic toys that you're probably gonna get mad and give away to the Goodwill or take them down to the daycare and give them away anyway. Like make sure that you, in the midst of buying and spoiling in that way, that you fill your house with books and read to them, and as well as make sure that you set them up for financial success, and get an account. That's my plea. I,
Yep.
I plea it everywhere I go.
What you just heard right now is number one, have a financial plan for your children. Number two, have a intellectual academic plan for them as well. Because at the end of the day, those are the two things when combined builds wealth. What's in here and what's in the back pocket.
I just realized somebody probably thought that this was Uncle Near's. It's not.
It don't matter. Listen, we're grown. We're grown.
This is apple juice. It's not that time. Not that time in the podcast yet. But we'll get there.
Yo,
And
we
notice I said Uncle Nearest and not Crown Royal. I ain't trying to get sued, but hey, that black woman owned brand is a beautiful thing.
It's funny, but we could do our version of educated or Ivy League. Was that show that Nori got? Drink Champs.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
But I got to work in the morning.
yeah,
I can't be doing
I
that.
got work in the morning.
Yeah, and this is just H2O. I gotta stay hydrated. All right, bro. So earlier today we were texting back and forth, and you mentioned a topic that I definitely want to hear your opinion about this. Listen, guys, I've known this man for years, and once he breaks something down, I'm always number one dying because he has me cracking up, and number two, I'll be like, damn, that made a lot of sense. And we gotta talk about Kanye. We gotta talk about Kanye because I've been trying to understand this man, but the funny thing in his interviews I've been seeing, there is some genius in there, but wrapped around a lot of like lucid thoughts. I'm gonna say lucid. I don't believe the man is crazy, but however, there are ideas that he has that's very interesting to me. So what are your thoughts about Kanye?
So let me put it like
Listen,
this.
as a special ed teacher, I have to kind of empathize.
Okay, all right. Don't hit me with the woke liberal mob. As a special ed teacher, we don't use the term crazy anymore. It's on the DS. What is it? DS 5 or DSM 5, man. Whatever, man. Like, I get that, right? But what I'm just positing into the space. I'm putting into the atmosphere that long-term exposure to white supremacist culture makes you a bit crazy. Just because some of us are able to mask it better than others, just because education refines some of us to be able to handle it and articulate it very differently, doesn't mean that we're not tipping on the line of crazy. It's almost like when I never forget sometime when I'm in my little pinstripe suits and stuff. I think it was this older white lady said to me that she was essentially trying to separate me from the folks that were rioting after the murder of George Floyd, and I had to make sure that she understood. Oh, please don't separate us, right?
Yeah.
Don't take my ability to articulate and express my anger in a different way and go about it in a different way. Please don't think that I'm any less angry and any less capable of violence. I'm just making a choice to try and do something different. But I made it very clear to her that, any man, woman, or child pushed to a limit, and feeling that they aren't able to fully articulate, their emotions and what's happening. Oh, they can easily slip into to rage and turn to violence as an answer. I mean, what do they say on what was that? Oh yeah, see, yeah, they don't know. I know Downton Abbey too. what does the grandmother say on Downton Abbey? Oh, try reason. If that doesn't work, try force. I mean, that's so we're like, so I'm not different from anyone in that regard. Um, so I think he's a bit, yeah. I mean, he's a bit crazy like all of us, right? Long term exposure. But I mean, the reason I just said crazy is like if you're holding yourself accountable for essentially the death of your mom,
Well,
like that's a hard one to swallow. That's gonna that eats at you. That does something to you. And until you get some type of professional help or some type of peace around that, you're going to act out and behave in ways that are, downright strange to many folks who might not necessarily recognize that. They're gonna and people can talk about bipolar, people can talk about multiple persons, they can talk about all of the formal uh, um, disorders and all that stuff, and contemplate that. I'm just saying, like, I know a friend that accidentally killed his brother, and has not been really his life has continued to spiral down because we weren't able to successfully get him, his parents, anyone to get him the help that he needed to be able to get past that. That's a brother, right? Think about if you're holding yourself accountable for the death of your mother, right? Who put her on the operating table? Whose money put her on the operating
yeah,
table?
yeah,
Hey. So, he said it in the song. I went through deep depression when my mama passed. Suicide, what kind of talk is that? He was airing it out, right? So, none of this is surprising to me. And you couple that with, all of the pressures that come along with growing success, right? And you couple that with, I would say you fight different demons at different levels. So, someone you make it to a certain level and someone is trying to rob you of your creative genius after making billions of dollars. You made them billions of dollars, and the minute you whatever your mental health state is starts to flare. I mean, they dropped him quicker than
yeah.
folks have dropped him quicker than you can believe. And I'm just like, I'm just not willing to throw away another brother. Like, when I know that he is more than likely struggling with a demon that's really, 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 really hard to eradicate. I mean, you're gonna need some professional help. You're gonna need some talk to your religious advisor, and you're gonna need to find some peace and serenity. And I don't think in his world he's able to do that, and essentially threw him away. Now, I'm not gonna get into some of the lunacy and the craziness and the stunts that he's done for attention, but when you think about some of the crazy stuff that kids and other folks do for attention, I mean, how is it that far out there different? Now, again, wearing a White Lives Matter shirt ain't my cup of tea. Again, I classify it as a bit crazy, but am I willing to throw you away because you hit a low point? Because I don't want you to judge me off of my lowest point, right? Because again, I always say it like it's a split decision. In 55 years in the federal penitentiary, or you're going to you're working on a master's degree and a doctorate at an Ivy League school. It's just that it's just that easy of a
Yeah,
split. And
yeah, very true.
you judge me at my lowest points. I've been called a little bit of everything too, right? And again, I always say everyone holds a little piece of the truth.
So the thing, man, what I'm thinking about right now is this: like, you gave, like I said earlier, guys, like Archie speaks, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, a very powerful perspective. But now as I'm thinking about Kanye, and I'm asking myself, like, this man's a billionaire, and you would think with somebody who has that, say again, was
a billionaire.
yeah. But again, to show you how much control that others have when it comes to black wealth. Mm-hmm. Because again, I remember it was like almost overnight. I remember one day they were like, "Oh, he's worth over $1 billion." Then, man, he hit 3. Then all of a sudden, it's flat again. And my question is, how does somebody or how do we? Because again, he's a. I don't want to say he's a cautionary tale, but he can be a cautionary tale because one of the things is as we pursue whatever it is we're pursuing in this life, in this society, you know, how do we not become victims and prey to these spaces? Because one of the things I think is interesting is this. We were talking about earlier, like in the beginning, you were talking about the whole notion of, you know, the masks that we wear, you know, because we're all a little crazy, you know, and then I started thinking to myself, as somebody who went, I mean, I grew up in Inglewood, California. My neighbors were black, my teachers were black, the cops were black. You know, yes, it was still all kinds of jacked up because it was still L.A. You know, in the '80s and '90s. But when I went to college, there was a lot of things that happened in college at the University of Rochester, and I have no regrets going there. I received a great education in the classroom and socially as well. But I do also know there was a lot of mental anguish that we all went through at least I went through at University of Rochester, you know, as far as trying to figure out how I fit in racially in these spaces and the shit that I had to tolerate just to graduate, you know. So I'm asking myself like that, then now what has he had to go through in those boardrooms and very, very powerful people, from being a teenager who's producing music into becoming an icon in hip hop, then in the fashion world, and all these spaces that we don't control, you know, and just trying and just keeping quiet and accepting the BS that's being thrown his way so he can make it to another day. But now here he is at the pinnacle, and he's now seen as trash.
Let me pitch a couple things. One, like Adidas is a German company, right?
Yeah, right. German. So, Adidas.
They're probably very few, if none of us, and by us, any person on their board, right? I was reminded the other day. Yeah, I don't know if folks remember when LL Cool J. It was a Gap commercial.
The Gap commercial.
And he threw on the FUBU hat, and in the lyrics, back up.
And the lyrics for us by us. And Gap didn't know what's going on.
TV for 6 weeks, and none of you knew. The entire black community was just howling, laughing. We like, yo, did he just get on another? Like, did he just get on a Gap commercial with a FUBU hat and then rap for us by us? And they're constantly running it because they had no representation. And sadly, in many companies, let's be honest, not much has changed. So you can imagine that he's going in rooms where folks don't care about you. They're caring about how much money can I squeeze out of you, like an expensive tube of toothpaste in the hood, as I always say. I don't know about everybody else, but we couldn't get the expensive toothpaste, but whenever it went on sale or clearance, or when it was about to go bad and my mama could get it, you know, we used a butter knife to squeeze every drop out of it, right? They're gonna squeeze you for everything you got, all of your creative talent, and the minute you appear not to be fully aligned with them, or you decide to sever the strings that they want you to you decide to sever those puppet strings. Oh, you're going to be 100% demonized, and you're going to be kicked out to the cold winds, right? No one's going to ask about your experience. No one's going to ask about what you're going through. I mean, it's the same as a black kid getting put out of, let's just say, an Ivy League college, because how many times before that kid decides to punch somebody in the cafeteria did you get called nigger? How many times how many microaggressions, how many macroaggressions can you tolerate before you go off the deep end? And that goes for all of the black professionals. Now, again, I'm not justifying his kind of ridiculous actions, because they're antics to me and actions. But how many of you all are thinking about ridiculous stuff that you want to say or do and you don't do because you got a mortgage and you got a BMW to pay for, or you got, you know, a kid's tuition and all that stuff? You know, let's be honest, like, how many microaggressions and macroaggressions do you tolerate before, you know, hey, If somebody is there, he could say in the King's God, listen, all somebody got to do is say one stupid thing to me today, and it's going down, right? So somebody may have said that one stupid thing to him, and it's going down. And I don't think when you're dealing and struggling with whatever issues he has, whether or not he can stop that domino, effect until it's gone. And let's be honest, billionaires, you can't tell billionaire shit. What you gonna tell? What you
Yeah.
gonna tell billionaire?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I got some people in my life that let me hit the lottery for $1 billion a night. My sanity might come into question, right? Oh, I'm gonna be me, but I get to really be me, right? And not knowing that him not fully grasping that his billions are really controlled in many ways by other folks. Now if he wants to go out and put out albums, now here's the crazy thing, right? If he wants to put out a new album while he was still with all these companies, he wanted to put out an album and call every black woman on the planet bitch, hoe, homonger, tramp, this, that, and the other, right? If he wanted to use every derogatory term toward the LGBTQ plus community, if he wanted to use every derogatory term, it would have been fine. Folks would have been with it, right? Now, he when he turned his attention, and I'm just gonna be honest, right? It was fine, and we don't have to go into it because I know it's a sensitive subject, but it was all good, even when he was coming after the white community. But when he went after the Jewish community, that got shut down quicker than I mean, it went fast, right? And some, you have to ask why can you put out albums that allow folks to make billions of dollars that are vile and disrespectful. I ain't gonna say I don't listen to some of it because I'll be lying. I don't like being fake. I wasn't fake yesterday. I'm gonna be fake tomorrow, right? But you can put out albums with the most vile content, call disrespect yourself and disrespect everybody else and they would have kept selling shoes, right?
Yeah.
They kept selling shoes. Right? They'd have kept him on with every day. Like if as long as you're playing that part, as long as you're being derogatory and demonstrative to the black community or communities of color, you all good. You're with the program, right? But now if you decide to go a different direction, oh, that door is gonna be slammed shut on you really fast. And people don't want to put that out into space. Now again, Kanye gotta own up to, his ridiculous behavior too, right? And but again, I think folks need to take in the totality of um his full situation. I think money also makes you a bit crazy. I can go to Chicago right now, and for the most part, I'm cool. He goes to Chicago. He can't just be walking around, right? He has to affiliate himself with the street gang, right? Just like a lot of other rappers and entertainers, in order to feel secure in certain environments. Other folks don't know don't actually have to engage in that, right? If they're going home. So, it's a lot there to unpack that brother is dealing with. And this acting out, it's shameful, and it's more like don't just see the surface and decide you're gonna throw someone away, because again, you are all with George Bush doesn't like black people, hates black people, whatever he said. Oh, everybody's
Yeah.
all rah rah, and then you do this, and then everybody throws you away, right? I was reminded that uh, Kanye was the one that stood up and told all the rappers to stop using, and I'm gonna use a derogatory word. Y'all don't blast me on that. But when rappers in the rap community were saying faggot all the time, which is incredibly hurtful to many of our brothers and sisters, he was the one that actually pleaded with folks to stop, and many of them did.
Yeah.
But then if you make one move and say something about what is it, Chick-fil-A or something, and everybody crucified. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like it's like we're rotten. right? We're rotten. This is my Caribbean folks who say we're rotten.
But how do you how so this is the thing, and again, I just put it out there. If you're listening and you want to jump on this call, be part of this conversation, you can jump on by just jumping on your URL, type it in tinyurl.com/tsp-video-guest. You could join us and don't be afraid. Just come speak. This is an open conversation. This is like a barbershop conversation. So and if you want to be anonymous, just keep your camera turned off, and we will not say your name, but you're welcome to join this conversation. So my question, go ahead. What you say?
I can be I can be 100% wrong. I'm humble enough to be wrong every day of the week, every hour of the week, and some stuff around.
But that's the beauty of intellectual conversation, because again, it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about pushing thinking, pushing thought, and it's so. I'm trying to now. I'm asking myself as far as safe spaces. Can Kanye? Okay, let me not say Kanye him specifically, but an archetype of Kanye, like that personality type, that person who's now found himself in this kind of position or herself in that position. Can they ever come back home? Can they ever come back home?
I mean, so my short answer is yes. So I tell black people, get off your soapbox. Oh, he wore a White Lives Matter shirt. That was incredibly harmful. Let me tell you what's harmful. The brother that killed 10 people, that got convicted for the one murder, that's getting out on a technicality, and y'all know all of the carnage that this person is creating in the community, but you still throw a welcome home party and celebrate and come and high five and dap up and drink and do all this, and you welcome them back home. We welcome the craziest of stuff back home, right? But if the I always say sometimes the woke liberal mob can be just as terrible and deplorable as the deplorable MAGA crowd, right? I don't want to say all MAGA crowd folks are crazy and all that stuff, but some of their actions are certainly absolutely deplorable. And in on the reverse side of that, or inversely, this whole woke liberal mob, it's definitely something to that. And both sides keep up toxic polarization. So no side gets to tell me who I welcome back home if they want to come back home, right? At the end of the day, I always said, and I said this to my brother just recently. I don't care what you did. The police can't kick in my door and come shoot you in my house. Like it literally doesn't matter what they can come arrest you, but you can't kill my blood brother in my house. I don't even understand how the folks are sitting there watching George Floyd get choked out and then take action. Right? The problem is we don't have enough ashen knuckle brothers. We don't still have a spirit of taking action. We don't have a spirit of willing to be able to sacrifice. I don't even know how they watch that. And again, like, I don't want to criticize them heavily, but like, you can't. You can't tell me who I'm going to welcome back into my fold or community, because I know people who have made terrible mistakes, who have turned things around in tremendous ways. I know folks who been the bottom folks that don't kill folk, man, as a teen. Oh, y'all heard me say, man. See that ain't no that coming out. Right?
It's all good, homie.
I know folks who kill folks, man, as a teen. Terrible mistake. Did a
Yeah.
significant amount of time, atone for their sins, and have been able to come out and get their life going in a direction to where they're touching and healing folks. They never forget that mistake that they made. So again, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nisi, or Allah, El Rahim, Ra, Shem, whoever you like. I'm not that person. So I'm not going to be the judge of that. Now, again, people I always remind folks that when people are calling folks coons and house Negroes, now, be careful who you calling that, because you never know who that person is actually
Yeah.
feeding. You don't know who that person's feeding. Sometimes people, see brother or sister in a position, and oh, they just, they don't forgot about us. Now, actually, they're doing more for your people in the community in an hour than you've done over the last 10 years. Just because they don't get up and stomp their foot and wave around and say, ha ha, look what I did, that doesn't mean they're not taking action. So I don't know who that brother's feeding. I don't know what else he's doing with the dollars, or who he's put on, what businesses he's helped to create. A lot of folks might not know. But yeah, he's made some interesting, some interesting mistakes that I classify in the crazy realm. And, I think it starts with examining the whole notion of, if you hold yourself responsible for the demise of your mother, what would your mental state be? I know mine wouldn't be. I'm already hanging out. Don't push me because I'm close. I'm close to the edge. I'm close to the edge already. I can't help but be close to the edge because again, the more educated you become, the more you see things for what they are, and it's hard to not be able to see things. So, I think that we need to relax, give that brother some space and time to heal, give him an opportunity to be able to come out and talk about the mistakes that he's made, and figure out a way to welcome him back home and not allow people to be thrown away. It's almost like the rest of the music industry, artists, are used. They give you cash advances, make sure you're in debt, and then when you're no longer hot, they do what? Throw you away. Right? There's no pension for you and all that. No, they'll let you die in the hospital or whatever, and it is what it is. So that's my thing. Again, I could be totally wrong, could be saying this completely wrong. But I think that there's no. Sometimes we think that hip hop culture or black culture is monolithic, and we're not all the same. We don't all like. It's okay to be a black conservative. It's okay to be a black extra liberal. It's okay to be in between. It's okay to be black and country. It's okay to be black and extra city. It's okay to be black and bougie. Right? The Jack and Jill crowd, they always get so upset with me because I have all these credentials. And they think that I'm supposed to perform the bourgeoisie and black excellence. I like Jordans and suits. If that offends you because you want to wear brogues, wear your brogues. I'm gonna wear my J's, right? It Some people want to probably cast me aside, so whatever. I'm not, that's all I got to say about Ye. We can revisit another day, or we can if people got questions, we can keep on going. Ask the gangster disciples about Ye. He the folks, right, in Chicago, right?
He talks about it.
Guess you get to be a billionaire, you the folks. We're gonna skip all that.
So I want to see. Yeah, we're definitely gonna skip that. But I'll say this thing. I wonder.
That might be too ratty for everybody. But
yeah, I wonder what they think. Because I would love to get their opinion, but I'm gonna leave that alone because yeah.
I don't know. You might be feeding half the hood, so they might be like, man, leave that brother alone, man.
Yeah.
How long?
Right. So, have you seen the documentary Catilda, Last American Slave Ship?
Hadn't got a chance to see it yet. Looking for
it. You guys see it. I think it's on Netflix. You guys see it. But so I don't know how much you know. I mean, you know about the Catilda.
When do you have time to watch documentaries?
Bro, it's called a laptop. It's called a laptop and white and bro. I am more. Listen, hold up. Let me say it one more time. What's that camera at? See this? This is how I live. Multitasking. I don't have enough arms, bro. But the one thing I always have time for is to feed my brain. So I was on my laptop doing some work. It was playing. It was very interesting because. That documentary, without a doubt, sparks the conversation it doesn't spark it. It just adds more fuel to the conversation about reparations. You know, and it's about the last American slave ship that smuggled illegally 110 slaves, you know, from Ghana, what is today Ghana, West Africa. And they made it into, what was that? Alabama. And those slaves, those kidnapped people, those enslaved people, their bloodline has pretty much been uncut since that time. They're still in the same place. And Zora Neale Hurston wrote her book, Barracoon, which has finally been published. That kind of documents the oldest living up until that time member of that population. So this man was a child on that ship, and this was in the 1920s, 30s, when she interviewed him. And so you're seeing this documentary, his family, his bloodline, you know, and talking about, and it was interesting because, you know, listen, you see my name, Uche Njoku. I am born in Nigeria. I came here as a child, so I've always felt like somebody who's standing on the sideline watching that conversation about reparations, because again, it makes sense to me, especially when you see reparations that's been given to so many other groups in this country openly. Openly. So it's not like it was like, oh my God, did you hear that the Japanese families got reparations? No, this was done openly because people were like, we were wrong for what happened, and here, and you know, and this is a token of our apology. But after watching this documentary and actually seeing, it wasn't like these people were like, yo, those were my ancestors. No. They were like, no, that was my great-great-grandfather. Yeah. And we have video, and we have recordings, we have audio of his voice talking about what he went through and him having a very clear memory of where he came from, where he was kidnapped from. Yeah. So watching that, and listen, New York City better be happy I'm not still a principal. Because I would have had my whole entire school in the auditorium watching that documentary, you know. Because again, it's one of those things where we don't want to. When I say we as a country don't want to talk about, but it's right there in front of our faces. So I know you have very clear, very deep opinions about this. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are all over the place on that. So let me see if I can rein them in. One, I appreciate you distinguishing between slave and enslaved or kidnapped folks, right? I was always say like slave is a state of mind. That gets back to the whole Kanye thing and talking about victim mentality versus victim mentality. But I always say being a slave is a state of mind, because there were so many rebellions. Folks were literally enslaved, so there weren't folks weren't running around just happy-go-lucky that I was kidnapped. Two, beautiful documentary. I guarantee that wasn't the last ship.
Oh no! Oh no! But no.
Last ship that got caught. right. And so if they don't say that, the last ship that got caught. It's like I was just down. I was down in Memphis, and me and my children and family, we were in front of Ida B. Wells, the statue down in Robert R. Church Park. Oh my goodness! First black millionaire, first American black millionaire. Robert R. Church Park, and they have Rosa Parks statue. So finally, we got another statue of a black woman. Yes, but she documented all these lynchings. She tried to document as many as she could, but it was a whole lot that got left out. So that was the last ship that they aware of that got caught. But my general thought.
But wait a minute. It was they, and the crazy thing about it, they weren't. I'm sorry. Yeah, they weren't caught. What happened was the people were it was like a myth that was passed on. So what they did was kind of like our secret in this place, and the family. And listen. I'm sorry. What do you call it? Spoiler alert. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert. You still gotta watch it.
Don't spoil it for everyone, man. Don't spoil it for everyone. Don't
okay, so I'll tell you this. It was. So I will give you the details, but I'll tell you they were not caught.
Okay.
And the way it came into present knowledge was through through folklore. People will tell them the story. Okay,
oral tradition.
so but you're right.
Right.
There's no. This country is way. People don't realize how big America is and the waterways of this country. The rivers
Right.
in this country, there's so many of them. And we're talking about doing a time era. We're not talking about. There were no satellites. There was no Navy or Coast Guard patrolling. You could come and go as you wanted into this
I
country.
mean, if you sift through the records, you'll be surprised what you find and what's hidden as all the flooded black towns and all that stuff. But thinking about just reparations, one, I just remind folks that people say, "What's this whole slavery thing got to do with me?" Well, it wasn't that long ago. You're talking about people that were enslaved that they have audio recordings of. It's almost like Black Wall Street in when the I forget her name that went and testified. She was a centurion, I think, that went and testified in front of Congress because she remembered the bombs being dropped. Oh, the U.S. Army never attacked its own people. In it. No, I remember, right? So they've tried to erase, but she got up there with all that wonderful dignity. Great. I remember when I was a little girl what happened, right? So these passed along stories are all over the black community about things that occurred and happened, and it wasn't that long ago. People pretend like like yeah, like my grandfather's grandfather was probably enslaved, right? So wasn't that long ago. But when I just think about reparations, it reminds me that it's like literally the reason I think the country keeps sweeping it and pushing it to the side because how do you repay that debt? I mean, you can calculate what it will cost for for the damage you did to Japanese American citizens. Over X number, over a 3-4 year period, the homes. But how do you calculate working from hell? My grandmother worked in cotton fields as sharecropper from hell. That's the reason. Oh, I'm in my office, all right. So I have Elizabeth Catless, the sharecropper, behind me. It sits behind me on every meeting. On the other side, I have the first black senators and representatives in 41st and 42nd Congress. And I have another James Baldwin. I love living art pieces, but it sits behind me to remind me my grandmother chopped cotton from can't see to can't see. And for those who are extra bougie and don't understand what that means from when you couldn't hardly see in the morning to when you could barely see at night. Right? That's when your day ended and then you had to go take care of your family and get up and go do it again. Right? And this is she wasn't enslaved, but pretty damn close when you think about it. Right? But how do you calculate like the cost of that labor over hundreds of years? How do you calculate the rapes, murders? How do you calculate the separation of families? The like how it's all like people have run models to calculate it, but literally it just comes down to damn near everything. You would bankrupt the country, right?
Yeah.
But my whole thing is I just want my 40 acres and a mule as promised. I sent you some early today because I was looking at a video and I was reminded how radical Dr. King had become towards the end of his life. People always think of Malcolm X as the radical, but Dr. King became much more because he realized with this whole civil rights movement, yeah, I got civil rights, but this whole something about economics
Economic,
here
yeah,
ain't
economics.
adding up. And so when white people are saying, well, I never owned a slave. My grandfather never owned a slave. Well, here's how you're tied into this whole situation. And he kind of, talked about it, through the Homestead Act, which is what I was talking about earlier with you. The Homestead Act, millions of acres of land were given to newly settled or new European immigrants, right? I mean, whatever group you were part, whatever country you came to, millions of acres of land were given out over 70-year period with the Homestead Act in the West, in the Midwest. Right now, keep in mind, we can get into the conversation of what was happening to Native Americans, which is that's not even a
Yeah.
actual that term was coined sometime in the 20th century. We could talk about what was happening to the different tribes that was there and
Yeah,
getting removed from land.
indigenous people,
Right,
First Nations.
millions, just millions of acres of land were given out to European settlers and other poor white people that wanted to take the trek and move out west in the Midwest. They even set up land grant colleges so these folks could be educated, right? All these schools popped up in Iowa, Nebraska, and Montana. All these schools, these were land grant colleges, right? County offices, state offices were agriculture offices were established to teach them how to be better farmers and how to take care of the land, as well as programs were set up for them to be subsidized. Now, all of that has occurred. So estimates say what, roughly 45, 50 million white Americans right now benefited from directly benefited from that, right? And when enslaved folks were freed, they got thrown, as Dr. King described it, to the winds, into the cold, the cold winds of just being outdoors, no job, no money, no. So when folks were promised at least a tract of land to work and have of their own. And the people that did acquire some land, it got swindled away from them, or taken away from them, or eminent domain, or the town, their lands were flooded, or in the case of Central Park, eminent domain, wipe out this black community. Hey, we're going to build a park here, right? So when we're talking about reparations, like, like I don't think we can give the entire what's entirely owed because I think it would bankrupt everything. I don't think it would be a country, right? Which some people might like that. Many people will not. But I think like figuring out a way to how do you like figure out this 40 acres and a mule thing, 40 acres and a Cadillac with it, like it's something to having land and something to being given that opportunity. And black farmers are still struggling with getting their just due from the government, but everybody else they didn't have to struggle for this. So and to this day, people land here and are given resources that are not handed out to. And not saying folks need a handout, but I know the part of the argument is, oh, welfare. Well, the primary recipient of welfare is white people. Affirmative action. Well, the primary beneficiary of affirmative action has been white women. Right? So what are we talking about here? So I think that, yes, we are old, and whether the country is in a place, and certainly right now with the level of toxic polarization that's happening, we're not even in a place to be able to many folks to admit that our history definitely impacts us today, and the history of just thinking about the Homestead Act and the fact that folks got acres upon acres of land, farms were established, schools were established, and help was happening, and they want to pretend like it never happened. Oh, you didn't, you got your family farm because your great grandfather just was just an extra hard worker.
It's a great
Well,
businessman.
you know what a hard worker is? Working in the Mississippi cotton field from can't see to can't see after you drop the baby. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
fine. I never heard that term before. Can't see the can't see. I just learned
Can't
something
see to
tonight.
can't see, man. Whether it was a tobacco field, whether it was a sugar cane, whether it was sugar cane, can't see to can't see. Right, and it's just the reality. So I keep Elizabeth Catlett, the sharecropper, and for those who don't know Elizabeth Catlett, she passed away in 2012. She left this country, went to Mexico, really the rest of her life in Mexico City, probably the last 60 years of her life, because she, like Dr. Du Bois, when he went to Ghana, I think he finally realized that I'm not sure things are going to really change. Different iteration, but I'm not sure. And that's, I always say, the smartest Negro who probably who in our time who just kind of came to that conclusion. We should be thinking. But I mean, that's just my quick and dirty take and shake on what I actually get into legal cases. What I get, I was a history major. So I love history. When I get into legal cases, when I get into all that, like that's just my quick take and shake on that. Is like we first need to be able to have a conversation about acknowledging Like, and I don't think most people and many white people who have benefited from systems that allow their families to be successful and or thrive or obtain land, obtain education, um, um, or at least allow their great grandparents and grandparents to do so, which set them up for success. I don't think they even realize or even are willing to have that conversation because the media puts out the worst of us in every way all the time. So we're undeserving. And that gets back to the whole conversation of um, whether we can just be thrown out once we're finished being used. So black community, we use Kanye and then we're willing to kick him out. White companies use Kanye, willing to kick him out. It just reminds me of, a elder enslaved person who's been used up, back tore up, right? You don't even know the pain that person has going on. And then they just get kicked out because they can't work anymore. Their back is gone out. I don't know. Reparations. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody can correct me.
We have 4 minutes left before our hour is up. So my brain is now going back, and I'm thinking to myself, like, we talked about Kanye and his struggles, but also understanding, that history behind the struggles. But now we're talking about reparations again, another space in which, like you said, that throwaway effect, But then now I'm asking myself, what is the impact on this on our children? In our schools, like I look at my son and daughter, and I won't lie, a part of me, I'm constantly thinking to myself, that time might come where we might have to jump on that plane, and maybe you might have to spend a couple of years in Nigeria, and have your identity formed in a space where you don't have to question who you are, or shy away from your or from who you are as a person of color. But I don't. But it's also. Go ahead.
I was or what Frantz Fanon talks about, wearing black skin, white mask, or that veil that Du Bois talks about, like, where you don't have like this whole notion of code switching doesn't even exist. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that just be beautiful if I could just be my whole black self all the time, just all day long, all the time, at work, at home, on the street, in the mall, just be. If I could just be, right? I have a shirt, I'm gonna wear it next time. It says "Too tired to code switch," right? Sometimes I have white folks, colleagues. I go to meetings and stuff, and laugh, and I say, "Listen, I can't do it today. I'm gonna say mine in the meeting. I'm from Memphis. We say mine."
Yo, say man. Listen, today I had a staff meeting with my team, and the language that I need to use, the mask that I had on just didn't work. So I was like, yo, check this out. We gotta fucking do this. Because I was like, bro, I'm sorry. And those of you who are offended by my language, I'm sorry. I'm sitting there thinking like, yo, my brain at that point in time, I just couldn't match my emotional space and with the mask. I couldn't be, all right, guys, today I just couldn't do it. I was like, listen, this is what we gotta fucking do. X, Y, Z. And the funny thing, everybody was good with it. Everybody was good with it. It's just that everybody's wearing like we all keep wearing these masks. And it's funny, but you said the last time I was in Nigeria, it's funny because what mask? If anything, I was the sore thumb. They're like, hey, my brother, what are you doing? My friend, please relax. And I'm like, damn, you're right.
You're right. Isn't that crazy how you be like, you're right. What am I doing? What am I literally doing?
Ah, man.
All right, we got to do it. We're gonna do a broadcast one of these days from Nigeria. Me and you at the same spot.
Yeah, yes. We've been saying, yo, look, and the funny thing is this: I just did a podcast where I was a guest of my brother Kwame. He's right now he's in Liberia. So I was a guest on his show, and he came on live. So I'm sitting there looking at him. I'm like, bro, you're in Africa right now. And in my brain, it just felt weird because I was like, bro, I was jealous, bro. I was like, I don't know why. I was just like, damn, why can't I be out there with you? Yo, I would love to sit with you across the table, in West Africa, in, wherever we need to be, and just be us.
Fuck it. My 40th birthday, I'm hitting, I'll be 40 in February. Have never been in the African continent. I'm either having kids, working on the great. No, 40th.
All right, listen.
I'm going. I don't care. I'm going. I don't care what it costs.
I'm rolling with you. Listen, we're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. I've been saying this to you since we met, like over 10 years ago.
I know, and the problem is, my thing is, I'm crazy. I might not come back. Every time I go to Barbados, I'm like, why am I back here?
Nah, bro, that's my fear, bro. That's my fear. I feel like with the way things are right now. Like, listen, even right now, working remotely, I'm like, bro, I can work from Africa. What are we talking about? We got Wi-Fi. And what I make here out there is like crazy. What are we doing here?
And so that's again, and look, some people are like, and I started this, I quit my job before Beyonce was like, they won't break my soul and all that stuff, right? So I'm just like, I've been talking about this for a minute. Like, I have a whole plot of land I got picked out on the North Coast up there in Barbados. I'm just like, when I go, I'm just not coming back, right? But yeah, that's my great fear. I might go to Botswana, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, South Africa. I might just not come back. Hey, tell these people I ain't never coming back. Right? Hey, call you people, tell them I ain't never coming back. Right? I don't know.
I hear that, brother.
Bro.
Another great. We're gonna have to put a pause on this till next week, Wednesday at 10 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are joining us, thank you so much. I see there was some constant people the whole entire time. So whoever you are, thank you. Do me a favor, share the link for this next week. Let's get more people involved here. And my goal is to bring more people into our conversation. But if you don't choose to join us, it's okay. At the end of the day, I know for a fact, I know I learned something today, and I know somebody out there learned something, and I know there's more knowledge out there. We just want to bring it all to the same spot. So, Brother Archie, anything you want to say before we jump off?
I mean, again, everybody out there, just be safe, be well, take care of yourselves, take care of the people that you love, take care of the people that you might not know. Again, I talked about last week, a debt to our ancestors. Pay that debt. Get out there, do something really, really nice. It's a mother that's struggling right now trying to buy Pampers for a baby and trying to figure out what to do. If you're in Walgreens, CVS, or whatever, if it ain't gonna hurt you, go ahead and get those Pampers for her, please. You know what I'm saying? So just be well, be safe, take care of yourself, and spread love, and definitely continue to find joy. And support Black artists and artwork. Jesus Christ. If you don't know Elizabeth Catlett, like, you need to know Elizabeth Catlett. Oh my God. Don't tell me about Rembrandt if you don't know Elizabeth Catlett. All right. But I love you all, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
All right, family. Be well. Have a good night. Peace.